Hi everyone, welcome to another video on Seiya Legend of Justice. Now in today's video I'm going to talk about boss battle, which is a topic I haven't covered for quite a while on my channel. But for some reason quite a few people have been asking me about boss battles recently, so I decided now is probably a good time to update my guide. Now in today's video I am going to talk about the best characters for boss battles. I am also going to talk about the Arayashiki that you really want to equip on your characters to get that next level of damage, and also of course the artifact that you also want to equip on your characters to once again go for the highest amount of damage possible. All right. So starting off, I am gonna talk about the characters. Obviously, I am gonna start off with just talking about the tiers I have. So basically, quite simply put, I have SAB as kind of the three main tiers that you'll be looking at, and obviously I have characters for each one of those. Some of them are more for doing damage, some of them are for support characters. I kind of just mix them up together because sometimes you may actually find out having an extra support character is actually going to be more beneficial than having another damage dealer, etc. So that's kind of why I just, I didn't really separate out the support characters versus the damage dealers. I just have everyone together. Then on the fourth tier, I have something called event restriction. This is basically specifically for an event which is not on right now, so I can't show you unfortunately. But every single month, you do get an event where you are essentially in a race against all of the other players across all the servers, beating. It's normally either the 7 pillars of the sea or the 12 palaces of Zodiac, and basically there's a boss at the end, which is either a Poseidon or a Pope, depending on whether it's the 7 pillars or the 12 palaces. And in those game mode, there's always a restriction on the type of characters you can bring, because it normally says something like, for example, light characters and warrior characters have an 80% reduced damage, so therefore there'll be no point bringing any of those. And as a result, sometimes it forces you to use characters that you normally wouldn't play in normal boss battles. So that's kind of why I have those separated out as a whole other tier. And then the last tier is something I call Babel only, because Moses is really only going to be used for Babel. And in all honesty, you don't even need Moses for Babel now, because there are lots of other characters who are even better, such as Shongo Close or Poseidon, or Pandora, or even Ptolemy to some extent. However, I am going to respect the fact that if you're just starting out in the game and you do not have those other characters, Moses is probably going to be the most reliable way to battle against Babel. So that's kind of why I made the tier just for him to kind of appreciate the fact that he was actually being used for quite a while early on in the game. All right. So starting off at the top of the list, I can almost make this into another 2 tiers, which is gonna be your first 4 characters here, you would be playing them on every single team. And then as for the last spot on your team, it's not going to be a tie between Virgo, Shun, Hypnos, or Roshidoko. They all have their pros, and in different situations, you may mix them up. But undoubtedly, the first 4 characters are what you would want to play ideally in every single battle. So starting off, we have some damage dealers, so which is Leo Aura and Seiya Gokos. The damage output from those two are on a completely different level, and it's just absolutely crazy. I have actually tested before. For example, if you just play Seiya Close plus another 4 support characters, you are going to do much better up than Seiya Close plus another DPS plus 3 other support. And that's basically because when you have support characters to enlarge the damage of the amount of damage on say a Goku or Leo Goku, that's actually much better than bringing a whole other DPS by itself. So that's kind of why those two are completely different level. You need to have at least one of them if you want to, compete in both battles for sure. Ideally, you do want to have both of them, and if you find yourself in a situation where you do not have both of them, then just borrow one from a friend. Okay, just borrow one so that you have both of them. It will definitely make wonders to the amount of damage you're able to do. Between the two, Leo Go Close obviously do more damage. Leo Go Close normally does about, I want to say, about 50% more damage than say a Go Close. That's not to say Go Close is not good. Say Go Close still like a mile ahead any other damage dealer, but if you really have to pick one out of the two, then Leo Go Close would do more boss damage. But obviously that does come with a bit of a sacrifice, which is say Go Close is better than Leo Go Close in all other game modes. But if you're just going for that pure top level damage, then Leo Go Close is the best one for boss battle. Then the next character that you definitely want on your team is going to be Leora. The main reason you want for him, and he needs to have his constellation maxed out in order for this to happen, is that he is able to, when you have his constellation maxed out, you are able to have electricity for 15 seconds, which basically means he is always going to have electricity on the boss, and it can also be overlaid for 3 layers. This is all to improve this looping skill, and this looping skill definitely happen way more frequently than 15 seconds. So that's kind of why I say the boss is always going to be under electricity. And when he's under electricity, it's a 35% increase in damage. And remember, you can stack this 3 times. So that's immediately 105. Let me check whether anything else increased. No, it's just so. So that's immediately 105% increase in damage. So you're just doubling the amount of damage just by bringing Leora. And that's kind of why I was saying earlier, right? When you have someone doing as high crazy damage as Seiya Go Close or Leo Go Close, bringing a support character is actually going to be better than bringing the DPS, for example. So that's kind of why Leora is so good. And then we have Sean Go Close, who's the next must-have slot, and that's because he is able to just increase the speed of your whole team, which is great because you can increase how much damage your damage dealers are doing. You can also increase how much frequently your supporters are able to inflict buff and debuff, etc. So that's kind of why Sean Go Close is like a must-have, no matter what other support character you're going to bring onto the team. Like Sean Go Close definitely have his unique spot on the team always. Alright, and then I already talked about those 4, which you should always have. As for the last spot, it's a tie between Virgo Shun, Hypnos, and Roshidoko. What Virgo Shun is able to bring is if you have his ultimate skill ready, he's able to put this battleground effect, which increase the buff by 15% attack and also attacking speed, and also reduce defense by 15%. And also if you actually have his constellation maxed out, that increased by extra 5. So essentially, most optimally, you should have Virgo Shun, which is able to apply 20% increase in attack and also speed, and also a 20% decrease in defense. So in total, that's about 60% worth of buff / debuff, etc. You can kind of say that's like 60% extra damage for simplicity. So that's kind of why Virgo Shun is really, really nice. On top of that, Virgo Shun is also able to inflict electricity as well, which once again similar to what Leora does. You are able to increase the damage on the bot by another 30%, and that's kind of why Virgo Shun is just able to do so much by himself, which is absolutely crazy. And then the next one, let's talk about Roshidoko next. Roshidoko is able to do really nice thing, which is this constellation. If you have maxed out, you are able to increase the attack and crit for your allies by 2% every single second, up to 30 times. So basically, what that means is that towards the end of the battle, well, actually, it's not even towards the end because the boss battle lasts for 90 seconds, and this is already going to be stacked up to the max after 30 seconds. So for 2/3 of the battle, you are going to basically increase all of your team's attack and crit by 60%, which is absolutely crazy. Even if you have to factor out for the entire duration of the battle, so take into consideration for the first 30 seconds, it's not going to be as high. That's still going to be like a solid 50% increase on attack and crit rates throughout the whole battle, which is very, very nice. And that's kind of why you can already see this is going to be comparable to what Virgo Shun is able to do. In terms of Virgo Shun able to do only a 20% increase to attack and attack speed, but also 20% decrease in defense, etc. You can see the buff Roshidoko and Virgo Shun is able to do is already more or less the same. And then lastly, we have Hypnos. Now, Hypnos is not something you may realize he's very good straight up. But what Hypnos is able to do is that when he has his ultimate skill, when basically he's going to create a space once again, and when the space ends, you're going to do an extra 35% increase in whatever damage that has been dealt during the duration of the space effect. So you can almost think of that as a 35% increase in speed as well. Now, something you also have to bear in mind is that he also have a looping skill, which can increase the Cosmo of one other character on the team and also himself by quite a lot. And that basically means that you are able to quite frequently release his ultimate. So even though this is 35% extra damage, it's only for damage that has been dealt when this effect is activated. However, because he is able to regenerate so much cosmos through his skill 2, when you have his constellation maxed out, that is, you are actually able to release his ultimate quite frequently. So it's almost like a permanent 35% increase in his damage output. So that's kind of why he is also going to be a very, very good choice. Now, how do you choose between them? Vast majority of the time, Virgo Shun is going to be the best choice because he is just able to provide so much more. Now, in terms of purely like percentage stats wise, you can I already told you like essentially he's able to do like a 20% increase in attack and in speed and also 20% decrease in defense. So that's almost adding up to 60%, which is higher than what Roshidoko is able to do. On top of that, he's also able to inflict electricity. So that's kind of what vast majority of the time Virgo Shun is going to have the highest support buff out of all of them. However, in some situations, you may find Hypnos to be actually slightly better, and that's the reason is mainly to do with which damage dealer you want to use in your team. Now, if you take a look at the damage Leo Godclose is able to do, what you realize is that when you have his constellation maxed out, you see all attack of Aurora ignore 100% of the enemy defense. So now if you're actually saying about a third of the buff or debuff Virgo Shun is able to do is actually reduce the enemy defense. And now if you actually put that in this way, if I'm actually playing Leo Aurora, if I'm actually playing Leo Godclose, then this Virgo Shun's defense debuff is not actually going to be of any use to Leo Godclose anyway, because Leo Godclose already by default ignore the enemy defense. So that's kind of why in some situations, especially when you only play Leo Godclose and do not play Seiya Godclose, then you might find yourself actually doing a bit more better damage with Hypnos. And also in other scenarios where, for example, the enemy defense, the boss defense is already very low. A good example would be, for example, in guild boss battles. In guild boss battles, all of the defense are by default 0, so Virgo Shun wouldn't get anything extra by reducing their boss defense. So once again, in those scenarios, then Hypnos will actually be a better choice than Virgo Shun. And then lastly, you also have Roshidoko. Roshidoko is very good, but the only, I guess, disadvantage of Roshidoko is that he's of water elements, and sometimes it's just really hard for you to get the formation bonus with the water character, because what you can say is vast majority of the really good damage dealer or boss characters are either fire or earth. There's not many ways where you can include Roshidoko and still get the maximum amount of elemental formation bonus. So that's kind of why if you do also take into consideration that, for example, if I play Hypnos, who's a dark character, by default I can play like 5 characters of the same element and I'll get a 25% increase in attack boost. Whereas if I play Roshidoko, very likely I want to get 15%. So that's like an extra 10% Roshidoko will be losing out in comparison to like Virgo Shun or Hypnos. So that's also something you do have to bear in mind as well. But in all honesty, all 3 of them are absolutely amazing, and any of them would do very well as the last member of your team. Okay, now that we talk about the S tier, let's move on to the A tier. A tier, the first character I have is Hound Asterion. Hound Asterion is very, very good because he has his looping skill, which is able to increase, once you have his close max out, able to increase attack boost and crit rate boost by 30%. Now that is very, very strong. However, if you actually compare to someone like Roshidoko, who for vast majority of the battle, for the last 60 seconds of the battle, is able to increase attack and crit by 60%, you can already see that purely from support utility, Hound Asterion is only able to do half of what Roshidoko is able to do. Now, he is, in all fairness, because of the fact that Hound Asterion is an Earth character and therefore you get formation bonus, it's not actually going to be as obvious difference in comparison to Roshidoko, but definitely Roshidoko would be a better choice than Hound Asterion. There's one other boss format which is actually going to be interesting for Hound Asterion, and that's going to be in the guild boss when you are fighting Pope's trial, and that's because in Pope's trial, what's going to happen is Pope is going to do something which is confuse two random target. However, if you actually play Hound Asterion onto your team, what you will then realize is that when you have Hound Asterion close to the highest level, he is actually going to make your whole team immune to confusion. So if you are going after kind of the guild boss, when you're trying to do the maximum damage in the Pope's trial, then Hound Asterion is actually going to be a very, very good choice from that perspective. Then the next character I'm going to talk about is Capricorn Shura. Now, Capricorn Shura, the main thing you want from Capricorn Shura is that you want his clothes to be level 20, because what happens is that his normal attack is going to reduce the target's armor by 8%, and that's going to be a permanent reduction. Armor is basically the same as defense, so essentially if you're saying about Virgo Shura is able to apply 20% defense reduction, what Shura is able to do is able to apply 8% defense reduction every single time when he do a normal attack. So if he actually do like 12 normal attack, then the enemy's defense will be almost 0, which is absolutely amazing. So normally you do want Shura on your team if you do have his close to at least level 20. Now, there's a few things you have to bear in mind though. First of all, it kind of depends on the type of boss you're fighting, because once again, if you're actually fighting about guild bosses do not have defense. So if that's the case, Shura is not actually that important. And likewise, as what I was talking about when I was talking about Hypnos, if you actually only play Leo God Close, in which case Leo God Close by default already ignored the enemy defense. And if that's the case, then you don't really have to play Shura either, because Shura is not going to give you anything extra when you're already ignoring 100% of the boss defense. And then the other thing I also want to mention is that Shura actually by default doesn't have very high attack. So, and also if you bear in mind the fact that Shura is able to do this defense reduction every single time when he do a normal attack. So that basically means after 12 normal attack, which is normally only going to be like 12 seconds, then he will basically have no use for the entire duration, the remaining duration of the boss battle. So normally you don't actually want Shura to be on the field that for very, very long. And that's kind of why you will see I actually have my Shura at level 1. So basically the way you do this is you just simply take Shura out of your resonance, okay? So do not put Shura here. So for example, if I actually equip Shura, then Shura will be at the same level as all of my other characters. However, if you take Shura out, then Shura will only be at level 1. However, the nice thing about this is that even though Shura is only at level 1, he's still gonna get his level 20 close benefit. So he's still able to reduce the enemy defense, so that's very nice. And basically the way you want to do this is you want to play Shura up front. Even though he's only at level 1, you enter the battle. What's going to happen is the boss is eventually going to kill off Shura. So for example, if I just leave this running for a while, you will see that Shura will eventually be killed off after about 10 seconds, hopefully. Let's see. So yeah, so you can see here, Shura has been killed off, and my substitute would be Leo Aurora, and that's really, really nice because Shura at that point already done probably like 12 or 13 normal attack, so the enemy boss right now is already at 0% defense, and I'm not restricted to using Shura for the remaining of the battle. I can actually then swap him out for someone who's much, much stronger, and that's kind of why this is a very, very good strategy. And another note on this, for example, this is also something you can use on any other character in order to get a formation bonus. So what you can see here is that I have Shura at level 1. Eventually, even when he's gonna be killed off, I will still be retaining the formation bonus, even though I would then bring someone who's a fire element rather than earth element. And this is a very nice trait that you can also repeat with other characters. It doesn't have to be a character you take out of resonance. It can also literally just be like another 3-star character or even 2-star character, for example. You can just play them onto the team. Eventually, they will just be killed off, and then that allows you to bring the actual characters you want from your reserve team onto the battlefield for them to do the actual damage. So that's something else that you really want to optimize for that extra bit of damage. All right. Then the next character I'm going to talk about is Sheena. Sheena is very good because she does have very good damage output. And the other thing she can also bring is that she is able to inflict electricity, which is very, very nice. Electricity is extremely important when you are facing up against Moses, because basically what happens is Moses have something which is this. When he is using his looping skill, he's gonna create a shield. However, when that shield is hit with electricity, then immediately you are actually gonna remove his shield, and also it guarantees all of your damage afterwards for 5 seconds to always be crit, which is very, very big differentiator. And basically, Sheena is one of the few characters who is able to inflict electricity. So that's kind of why Sheena does have a role to play up against Moses. Nowadays, I don't really bother, but in the early days of the game, when you do have to compete for that extra bit of extra damage, then Sheena tend to be quite helpful. And basically, what you can do is Sheena can inflict electricity when he uses his ultimate attack, and same thing with Leo, who can also inflict electricity with his ultimate attack. So normally you just play the battle manually until you see the shield, in which case you then just use one of their ultimate attack to get rid of shield. Let me just show you. It's probably going to be easier. So basically you will go into the battle. I would let me take off this speed up just so I can actually show you in slow motion. You want to play this auto. You want to play this without auto. What you can see here, a shield is up, right? And basically what happens is when that shield is up, my Leo Aura use that shield, use his looping skill, which inflicted electricity and therefore removed that shield. However, there was a few seconds before that shield was removed, which is not good. However, now if I see a shield, I can use his ultimate attack straight away, and that removes the shield instantly. So this is basically something you can do when you're playing up against Moses. It's that you put it on kind of normal default speed, and you also take off the auto mode, and basically just keep an eye out on whenever Moses do a shield. As soon as he has shield, apply electricity on him, and then can remove it. And that's kind of why Sheena is pretty good in terms of the fact that not only she has really high damage output. I think outside of Seiya Goku's and Leo Goku's, Sheena probably do the highest amount of damage. But still, like Sheena is just very far away from damage from the first two, so that's kind of why normally you wouldn't be playing Sheena. However, if you are fighting against Moses and for whatever reason you do not have Leo Aura and you have to have another way of inflicting electricity, then Sheena is one of the few characters who's able to do so. So Sheena does have that added edge for just for Moses in terms of the boss battles. Then we have Poseidon, we have Pandora, we also have Queen. Those three are just standard damage dealer. There's not much to talk about them. They just have really high damage, but nothing in comparison to Leo Goku's or Seiya Goku. So that's kind of why, I was just put them in the second tier in terms of damage output, but most of the time you wouldn't be playing them. I do want to give a special shout out to Pandora though, because Pandora is able to remove debuffs on your team, and that's actually going to be very, very useful when you're up against Babel, because essentially she can do essentially what Moses is able to do. So if you actually want to battle against Babel but do not want to bring Moses because Moses is just a tank, he can remove debuff but he doesn't do anything else. Pandora is normally going to be a better choice because Pandora can actually not only remove debuff but also do some quite good damage herself. So that's kind of why Pandora is probably worth mentioning just for the boss battle for Babel. Then we have the next tier. We have Potomi. Potomi does a few things. Potomi is one of the few characters who do a debuff, but actually attack debuff, and that can be useful in certain boss battles when it's actually very difficult for you. A good classic example is going to be Relic of God. When you are in Relic of God and you are facing up against Pandora, Pandora does incredible amount of damage when she is kind of the boss, and that's kind of why you normally want to play Potomi to reduce the damage output there. Another scenario where you may want to play Potomi is if you just start out in the game and you have trouble cleaning up like Tethys or Aphrodite, those kind of recurring event bosses, then Potomi is normally a quite good shout because Potomi is able to reduce the damage output, so once again make you a bit easier to kill off the bosses when your level is not high enough. Alright, then we have Surplus Shun. Surplus Shun, in all honesty, have pretty good buff if you have his Constellation max out, because what's gonna happen is that he's gonna do his Aris reincarnation, and it will never expire. And basically, what Aris reincarnation is able to do is you are gonna increase the attacking speed for your whole team, and also attack by 12%. Obviously, you can already see it's not as high as some of the other buff. And also the other thing you also have to bear in mind is this is only triggered when he takes damage, and in all honesty, once your level is really high, it's actually really difficult for any of your characters to take enough damage. For example, this one, you need to take damage of at least 20%. It normally going to take you a while to build up 20% damage dealt to you, so therefore the buff wouldn't be activated straight away. And in all honesty, when you compare this to some of the other supporters out there, he is just not as good as any of the others, so that's kind of what he's on the beat here in terms of support. Then we have Shirugokos. What Shirugokos is able to do is that he has a passive skill which is able to permanently reduce all of the defense on the field by 40%, so that includes the boss defense as well. Now, that by itself is actually not bad, especially if he actually uses his ultimate, then that doubles. So basically, that becomes an 80% decrease in defense, which is actually really nice. However, normally what you can do is you can just play Shura instead, make Shura survive for like 10 seconds or so, and you can get like a permanent 80% debuff throughout, and then that allows you to then swap on another character onto a team rather than Shirugokos who have to be on the team physically in order to have that defense reduction. But that's kind of why Shirugokos is not going to be as good choice as, for example, just playing like a level 1 Shura instead. Then we have Milos and also Iorus. They are once again just like damage dealers. Damage output is not going to be as high. I mean, to be honest, Milos does have really good damage output, but the problem with Milos is normally more the fact that once again he's a water character, so you are losing out a bit on the damage output. So rather than playing Milos, you are normally going to do just as well by playing Pandora or Poseidon, for example. So there's no reason to play Milos, especially considering Milos is only good for boss battle, whereas like if you put a resource in Pandora or Poseidon, they're actually really good for a number of game modes. So that's kind of why Milos is only like a B tier in my opinion in terms of boss damage. And then you have Iorus, who does even less damage than Milos. So but just a shout out because he is a quite good single target attacker, so that's kind of why you can somewhat play him for boss damage, but there are just so many other better choices, so normally you wouldn't bother with him. Okay, then we move on to the event restrictions. So that's basically only going to be characters you play when there are certain type of characters who are banned. Now, vast majority of the time, what you may have already realized is that a lot of the really good characters are from the light faction. So a lot of time, if the light faction is not banned, you'll be playing the likes of a lot of really good characters. However, if the light faction is banned and also the warrior faction is banned, which is kind of the main DPS out there, then you may have to forced to play some other characters that you may not normally play. Now, if light is banned, normally that means dark is available, and that's kind of what I have Radaman says. Minos, I have Iokus, and also I have Santos all out there. Now, this is a warrior type character, this is a skill type character, this is a skill type character. Oh, sorry, warrior, assassin, skilled. So amongst the three of them, amongst the four of them, you are guaranteed to have at least one class coverage, no matter what other restriction. And then adding on with Pandora, who's actually also a really good damage dealer for the Darkness faction. You actually then turns out no matter what other restriction, you should normally be able to field at least one character from those. So that's kind of why they can be useful when you have those annoying restrictions. And then Niobe and also across Hyuga, once again, they are not normally your first choice for boss battles. However, when you have some really annoying restrictions and maybe you do not have a good enough dark characters, then Niobe and Hyuga can actually do decent damage for you to actually use them. So that's kind of why I put them under the event restriction tier. And then lastly, like I said, Babel. When you're actually fighting against Babel, it's normally quite annoying because Babel can actually inflict burn to just kill off your whole team. However, what Moses is able to do when you have his close at level 1 is that he's able to purify your debuff on your team. And burn is the type of debuff. So essentially by playing Moses, you're able to counter Babel. And that's basically why, well, that's like the only reason why you may thinking about playing Moses. Okay. Alright, so those are all of the characters. Now let's move on to the next topic, which is going to be Arayashiki. Now, in terms of Arayashiki, for the damage dealers, obviously you want to normally go for attack, whereas for the support character, you go for speed. Now, someone recently asked me on Discord whether, for the damage dealer, should I go for attack or go for speed? In my opinion, it doesn't matter as much because in all honesty there are not that many speed cards out there, so normally you would never go 100% speed anyway. It's normally going to be like 50% speed, 50% attack. And then the other thing I would also want to point out is that if you have a Arayashiki card which are attack or damage focus, for example this one which just only increases attack stats and doesn't increase anything else, those are only going to be useful on your damage dealers. Unlike the speed card, yes, they are increasing maybe some like attacking offensive stats as well. However, the bulk of the reason why you're playing them is more for speed, and they will be useful on both attacking damage dealing characters and also support characters. But that's kind of why when you do not have like an unlimited number of choices of a riot card, so you can't go full speed, or playing as many speed cards as possible on your Leo Go Close or on Seiya Go Close. Personally, I would recommend you guys focusing a bit more on attack-based Arayashiki, just so that you can actually free up the speed card on your support units instead. Now, in terms of the actual specific cards you want to do, like what I mentioned, for damage dealers, you want to go for some kind of combination of speed and also attack, and normally you will just fill them all out. Now, for the support characters, what you tend to do is, like I said, you want to increase their speed, and you normally sometimes you may even have to use some of the the white card or the blue card, which is able to increase their speed. For example, this one able to increase their cosmic run, so that's pretty good. So you want to definitely use this. Then the other thing you also want to almost always have on your support unit is this purple card, which is able to increase damage for all of your allies by 1.5. Now it doesn't sound like much, however, it's still going to be a lot better than pretty much any other card which will be used as a support character. The thing as you want a support character is either increasing their own speed so that they can apply buff or debuff quicker, or there's a way for you to somehow increase the damage output for the rest of your team, for your damage dealer. And this is one of the few cards that's able to do that. So if possible, you definitely want to play this card on every single one of your support unit. Now, there may also be some variation of the card you want to play depending on the type of support, and you kind of need to figure out what are those different reasons. So I'm gonna give you an example, which is Burgershun. Now, Burgershun, basically, most of the time you play Burgershun for the fact that he is able to use his ultimate skill, which is able to apply buff and debuff, etc. Now, if you actually take a look at his ultimate skill, it basically creates that field for 12 seconds, and normally you tend to release your ultimate after about 10 seconds or so, but that actually means you will constantly be able to have this battleground effect on for the whole time. So as a result, it doesn't actually matter that much on whether you actually increase his attacking speed, because in vast majority of the time he would be having enough speed in order to constantly put up his battlefield effect anyway. Now, what you may actually want to focus on Burgershun instead is actually the fact that when at the start of battle, he's only able to cover the field for 7 seconds, and that normally what means is that between the 7 second and also the 10 second, there's going to be a gap where there's no battleground effect at all, and that's kind of why it's sometimes actually beneficial for you to play cards such as Ferocious as Fire, so that you can increase your speed for just for the first few seconds, and that basically allow you to bridge the gap at the start of the battle where you may not have the battleground effect available. However, there's no need to play the likes of, for example, Faster as a Wind, which basically increases normal attack speed, or for example, this card, Might Makes Right, which also increases normal attack speed. There's just no reason for you to actually play them, because after the first few seconds, once he releases his ultimate for the very first time, you would never really have trouble with getting enough Cosmo to release his ultimate again before the battleground effect expire. But that's kind of why there's no need to increase his normal attack speed. However, there is important to increase his attack speed at the very beginning of the battle just to bridge up that gap. So those are kind of the fine tuning that you may want to make between your characters in order to decide which type of speed card you may want to play on which support character. So that's something for you to bear in mind. Alright, and then in terms of damage dealing card, I also want to make a shout out to this type of card, which is basically the card which does damage over time. Now there are three different type of cards. There is this one, which is Poison Rose. There's one which does burn damage, and then there's another one which does bleed damage. Now, if you equip two or more of the same card on the same character, then what's going to happen is only one of them is going to take effect. So, for example, if I equip both the poison card and also equip the burn card on, say, a go close at the same time, only one of the poison and one of the only one of the poison or the burn will take effect on the boss. So that's going to be a bit of waste, and that's not something I recommend. However, if you equip them on different characters, it's actually going to apply at the same time. But that's actually why normally I tend to recommend you play all three of them, but you spread out across the three different characters. So for me personally, for example, I have on my Seiya Go Close the Poison Rose. Then I have on my what's my Leo Go Close, I will play this one, which is the Bleed one, and then on my Virgo Shun, I would then play the Flame one. Let's say, for example, where do I have him at? For example, I would then play this one on Virgo Shun, so that I basically have those three different cards on three different characters, and therefore I would always be able to apply all three of those damage over time, and that basically just increase some of your passive damage output. Now, in terms of which card you want to equip on which character, there's a bit of a trick to it as well, which is that those cards, actually the damage over time interval is slightly different. If you take a look at Demon Rose, it's going to be 25%. Let me ignore this percentage because that's actually going to be slightly different depending on what's the star level. But if you just look at the frequency, this is going to be 0.5 seconds for 1 second. So basically you apply that effect twice for 1 second. And then if I change this, for example, to the bleed card, you are also going to be applying this twice because it's 1 second per 2 seconds. So you're still only going to be applying it twice. However, the interval or the frequency is a lot less frequent because now it's every 2 seconds instead of every 1 second. And if you go down to the last one, which is the flame one, it's going to be even worse. Once again, the damage over time is applied twice. However, now the frequency is 4 seconds, or the interval is 4 seconds, or the cooldown is 4 seconds. And that's just not going to be as frequent as the other. So if you actually need to make a choice out of all of them, then Demon Rose is going to be applied a lot more frequently. And also bear in mind, Demon Rose only lasts for 1 second. You really want to equip this on a character which is actually going to be very fast so that you can constantly making sure the enemy always, with the boss, is always under this Demon Rose damage over time. Whereas this Phoenix Flame one, because it lasts for a whole 4 seconds, you can literally equip this on anyone who attacks, so you're guaranteed to make a normal attack every 4 seconds. So therefore, you don't really have to worry about burn running out on the enemy boss. And that's kind of the reason why I normally recommend playing Demon Rose on Seiya Go Close, because Seiya Go Close does have this passive which allow you to increase its attacking speed as the battle goes on, and that basically really allow you to constantly able to apply this poison debuff on the boss throughout the entire battle. So that's kind of why I highly recommend, if you have to choose the three, amongst 3 different characters on your team, Demon Rose should be going to someone who is able to attack really, really fast. And Seiya Go Close is normally going to be the fastest attacking one out of all of them. Alright, so that's going to be all the things I think you need to know about Arayashiki. Then the last thing I'm going to talk about is going to be the artifact. Now, by default, for your damage dealer, the best artifact you want is always going to be this, Golden Sword. And the reason is quite simple. You're going to increase your damage attack every 3 seconds. So as the battle goes on, you're going to get a huge amount of attack buff. So that's kind of why this is the go-to choice for all of your damage dealer. Now for your support character, there are quite a few choices. A really, really decent choice is going to be Twin Road, because basically what happens whenever you are able to do a crit, you are then able to increase the attacking speed. So if you actually think about for a supporter, when you actually increase your attacking speed, you are then more likely to release your ultimate. So for example, for the case of your Virgo Shun, you are able to release your battleground effect a lot more. For Shun Gold Close, you're able to increase the speed on the rest of your team a lot more. For Leo Aurora, you're able to land your ultimate and put the enemy into electricity, for example. So all of them are very, very good for you to increase the attacking speed. So that's kind of what, for support unit, generally speaking, you want to put them on this golden twin road in order to increase their attacking speed. Now there are some other choices which you can also do, which for example you can put also on the Scepter Victory, which is able to increase Cosmo. Now I typically decide whether I put a character on the Scepter or on the Golden Twin Road depending on their crit stats, because you do have to remember this only increases attack speed when he actually crits. So there's no point of putting a character who will never crit on Golden Twin Road because it would just be wasted. For those characters, I'll just put it on the Scepter Victory. However, you also have to bear in mind on Scepter Victory, if you equip that on more than one character, then the buff is going to be reduced. So ideally speaking, you only want one person ever to be on the Scepter Victory.